Hello everyone, in this class we will try to learn about trigeminal pathway. The learning objectives would be to understand the importance of trigeminal system in learning physiology of pain and analgesia, draw labeled schematic diagram of trigeminal pathways, appreciate the distribution of sensory segments as innervated by three divisions of trigeminal nerve, understand the thalamic representation of trigeminal nerve, understand the physiological basis of trigeminal neuralgia. A complete somatosensory representation of the body includes inputs from trigeminal nerves also. The trigeminal nerves supply face, oral cavity, and head. The trigeminal pathway is different from the pain sensory pathway from other body parts. The trigeminal nerve has three branches that supply three different parts of the face. The neurons of trigeminal nerves are pseudo bipolar neurons. They have their cell bodies in the semilunar or Gasserian ganglion, that is trigeminal ganglion. The proximal axons divide into ascending and descending branches to reach two brainstem nuclei. These brainstem nuclei are spinal nucleus, that is spinal 5, and the main sensory nucleus, that is main sensory 5 of the trigeminal nerve. Spinal 5. The caudal nucleus and the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, which has three subdivisions. The lowermost is the caudal subdivision of the spinal 5 that receives information from nociceptive afferent fibers from the face. Therefore, to relieve untreatable chronic facial pain as occurs in trigeminal neuralgia, surgical lesion of the caudal subdivision of the spinal nucleus or trigeminal nerve is performed. The middle subdivision is interpolar subdivision, which receives mechanosensitive and nociceptive inputs from teeth and gums and the mucous membrane of the mouth. The uppermost is the oral subdivision that receives nociceptive inputs mainly from the oral cavity. The spinal nucleus receives mainly the nociceptive inputs via small diameter fibers. Therefore, this is considered as a spinothalamic pathway of trigeminal system. This diagram showing the innervation of the subdivisions of trigeminal nerve, that is ophthalmic, second one is maxillary, and third one is mandibular. The main sensory nucleus. This nucleus is situated rostrally, and it receives ipsilateral projection from the low threshold mechanoreceptors from the face and teeth. The fibers are large diameter fibers, therefore the main sensory 5 is considered to be the trigeminal homologue of dorsal column nuclei. The inputs from trigeminal nuclei reaches the thalamus via trigeminal lemniscus, which runs along the medial lemniscus. The projections are primarily contralateral thalamus. In the thalamus, fibers terminate on the specific nuclei, that is ventroposterior and lateral and posterior nuclei of thalamus. The VPL receives inputs from the rostral subdivisions of spinal 5 and main sensory 5, whereas posterior receives inputs from the caudal subdivisions of the spinal 5. The VPL nucleus of the thalamus projects to the ventrolateral portion of the somatosensory cortex. The cortical representation of the face is relatively enormous due to its high innervation density. The representation of mouth and tongue is also larger. Both somatosensory 1 and somatosensory 2 receive trigeminal inputs from the thalamus. So this is a diagram showing the trigeminal pathway. All the subdivisions V1, V2, V3, they're going to go to the semilunar ganglion or trigeminal ganglion. So then they go to the main sensory nucleus and the spinal nucleus. From then they're going to most of the fibers they're going to cross over to going to reach to the thalamus, where they're going to relay in the VPM or in the posterior thalamic nuclei, and the third order neurons arises from there to go to the parietal cortex, that is area number 1312. and also to the somatosensory area too. And some of the fibers from the chief or main sensory nucleus, they have ipsilateral pathways which are going to go to uh, the ipsilateral side of the cerebral cortex. Some of the applied aspects related to the trigeminal nerve, the trigeminal neuralgia. This condition of severe and stabbing type of acute facial pain that persists briefly. The pain is initiated by application of an innocuous stimuli to the trigger zone, which is very specific and restricted area on the face. The trigger zone may be located in the cheek, nose, lip, oral mucosa, teeth, or scalp. The trigger zone may not have a particular relation to the area from which the pain is perceived. Most patients develop this syndrome following compression of the trigeminal nerve roots. The root compression causes the nerve irritation or degeneration that results in episodic burst of severe pain. If adequate control is not achieved with analgesic, surgical release of trigeminal compression or lesions of trigeminal ganglia may be considered. This is in brief about the trigeminal pathway. Thank you.